Rizal as an educator. Education is very essential. It is the most foundation from which one can train and nurture the vital instruments of progress, the citizens, especially the youth. For him, the youth is one of the most essential ingredients in any transformation endeavor. The young people with commensurate skills and the necessary values who are willing to subordinate their interest for the common good. These are the youth who are guided by a common vision and who are inspired by a sense of mission. Without education and liberty, the soil and the sand of mankind, no reform is possible. Rizal established a modest school which was attended by a group of selected students whose ages were 13 and 14 from prominent families in Dapitan. These students did not pay their tuition fees, but they were made to work in his garden, in the fields, and other civic projects in the community. The value of hard work, character building, respect of human worth and dignity, the spirit of cooperation, and family solidarity. So these are the values and manners that Rizal taught these young boys. Kaayusan, delikadesa, and palabra de honor, or which means word of honor, that he also taught them the various cultural values of the Filipino. On nationalism, he emphasized concern for national unity and the Filipino tenacity in the pursuit and defense of national ideals. Rizal taught these young boys reading, writing in Spanish and English, history and geography, mathematics, industrial arts activities, the study of nature, ethics, and gymnastics. He also trained them collect various specimens of plants and animals for scientific study. He also emphasized the value of good manners and good conduct. In line with his pedagogical philosophy of sound mind in a sound body, the students happily engaged in boxing, wrestling, swimming, fencing, arnis, and boating. Rizal as an engineer. Rizal is a full-fledged surveyor which he obtained from Ateneo and passed the prescribed examination. He was able to apply his knowledge of engineering by constructing a system of waterworks in order to provide the people in Dapitan a clean water. So in his desire to know more about the engineering as a field of learning, he read a lot of books about the subject to have a better knowledge about construction works, in which he constructed a water system to supply the people in Dapitan.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, my report is Rizal as a scientist. So, Rizal found Dapitan and other places in Zamboanga an ideal place for collecting specimens for scientific study. So, nakita ni Rizal nga ang Dapitan and laing lugar sa Zamboanga is para niya mao daw ang ideal nga place para mangolek og mga specimen. So, when we say specimen, it is a species or part of a species wherein gamiton siya para ilang maeksperimentohan, gamiton nila for testings or mastudihan nila nga part or portion sa usa ka species. So, accompanied by students, they explore the forest and sea coast looking for specimen of insects, plants, seashells, and other aquatic lives. So, niadto sila dito nga lugar and they explored the place, ilang forest, and not only the forest but also the sea coast. So, sea coast is muna siya ang seashore or kanang daplin sa dagat. So, dito sila nangita og different species, specimen. So, sa ilang pag-explore is they discover the nami. So, ang nami, muna siya ang kind of a root plant to be edible when cooked properly, but it was poisonous because it contained hydrocyanic acid. Na-discover nila dito ang nami. So, there was one time nga si Rizal kay napaakan siya sa usa ka centipede and he said that The pain was intense daw. So napaakan siya sa centipede and then iyahang gi-applyan sa fluid nga na-extract ana nga nami nga ilang na-discover. And then after nila gi-apply is nawala daw ang pain. And there are other instances wherein ilahang na-prove nga ang fluid nga na-extract sa nami is effective siya or yes, effective siya para mahimong medicine and capable of producing anesthetic results. He sent different types of specimen which are insects, birds, fish, snakes, and shells to Dresden. Some of the specimens he sent were rare and had not been known yet, which were named in his honor by European scientists. Among these specimens were Draco rizali, a flying dragon, Apogonia rizali, a small beetle, and Rhacophoros rizali, a rare frog. So, ang katong mga specimens nga iyang ginasend sa Dresden is wala pa kay siya na ilhan or like rare pa kay sila. So, wala pa siya na panganlan. So, ilang ginayman to sila ng mga specimens in honor ni Rizal. So, kaning Draco rizali, Apogonia rizali, and Rhacophoros rizali, these names were honored ni Rizal because siya man ang nakadiscover ani nila. So, in payment of these valuable specimens and in recognition of his effort, the European scientists sent him various scientific books and journals and surgical instruments. So, Rizal's quest for knowledge was boundless. So, when we say boundless, it is limitless or immense. So, in ana ka knowledgeable si Rizal. His knowledge was boundless. So, he also conducted researches and studies in anthropological, ethnographical, archaeological, and geological field of knowledge. So, daghan kay siya gibuhat nga mga studies, daghan kay siya ginakandak. So, knowledgeable siya. Nana siya ka-bright. Next is Rizal as a farmer. So, while naa sa dapitan si Rizal, instead nga, wala ra siya buhaton dito, is nag-think siya nga, why not mag-think ko og butang wherein maka-gain ko or maka-profit ko instead nga wala ako'y buhaton diri. So mo to nakahuna-una siya nga mopalit siya og land para iyang tamnan. So he bought 16 hectares of agricultural land where he planted fruit-bearing trees which are mangoes, guavas, lanzones, santol, and durian, aside from cacao, coffee, sugarcane, corn, and coconuts. So, aside nga iyahang tamnan ang land nga iyang gipalit, nag-raise po siya og lain-lain nga mga hayupan. So, they are horses, cattle, sheep, and other useful animals aside from chicken, ducks, and turkeys in his farm. So, nakakakugihan si Rizal because mangita siya og way wherein makabuhat siya og butang nga instead nga wala ra siya buhaton, nangita siya og way nga naapod siya mabuhat mahimo. So later he acquired adjacent lands of his farm until his total land area expanded near a river where it became a source of irrigation that consequently doubled his rice production. So iyang gipa-expand ang iyang land and tungod ani is na-double ang iyang tamnanan, iyang rice production. On this big tract of arable land suitable for agriculture, he introduced modern methods of farming and agricultural means and techniques he had observed in Europe and America. So he introduced niya ang modern methods of farming nga iyahang naobserbahan gikan sa Europe and America. So iyang gina-encourage ang mga farmers dito sa dapitan nga mo gamit sila sa primitive system and practices of farming. So iyang gina-encourage ang mga farmers dito nga mo adapt sila sa modern and scientific agricultural methods. So when we say modern and when we say primitive is katong methods of farming, manu-manu ra ilang pagtrabaho, pag-farm, and then when we say modern and scientific agricultural methods is wherein mura siya method nga upgraded na bito, like kanang mugamit na sila og machines para mapadali ang ilahang trabaho sa ilang farm or yun ana. So that's all for my report. Thank you.
Good day. So next, we proceed to Rizal as an entrepreneur. Rizal was a person who organized, managed, and assumed responsibility in any kind of human endeavor. So aside from farming in Dapitan, Rizal also earned money by the crops he planted in Dapitan. That's why Rizal called as an entrepreneur. In Dapitan, he developed an interest in creating different forms using wax and clays. Rizal curves figures of animals, humans, and saints. Dili ra wax and clays and also wood sad siya. Next, in one occasion, when Rizal was a young boy in Calamba, a religious banner during the town fiesta was damaged. Since naguba man ang ilang banner, so ni-volunteer si Rizal to make a new banner to extend its aesthetic value and to show his skills. Rizal impressed his Jesuit professor in the Ateneo while he was studying because of his artistic skills. When he carved an image of our Virgin Mary on a piece of batikoling, Philippine hardwood with his pocket knife. So katong gaskwela si Rizal nakabuhat siya og replika sa image ni Virgin Mary using batikoling or sato apa balati na wood. In that time, na-impress niya iyang teacher sa Ateneo. So next, in London, he curves the triumph of death over life and the triumph of science over death. In Dapitan, he curved the mother's revenge, wherein it is a dog and a crocodile statue. Na ang dog, gibite niya ang crocodile as a sign of revenge to her puppy that being killed by that crocodile. So mao na siyang story behind that statue. And other sculptural works of Rizal in Dapitan using wood as its medium were the bust of Father Guerreco, an Ateneo professor, the Dapitan Girl, and Josephine Brocken, which appeared realistic because of their anatomical shape and proportions. So next, Rizal as linguist. Rizal could be ranked with the world's great linguistics because of his remarkable skills in speaking several languages. So, kibaw mo jud ta na si Rizal witty kaayo. May siya mudag tabi, kabaw siya mo translate, and dagan siya nahibawan na lain-laing mga languages. So, mauni siya ang Spanish, Latin, English, Greek, French, German, Arabic, Hebrew, Dutch, Italian, Chinese, Japanese, Swedish, Portuguese, Russian, Sanskrit, wherein the Ilocano, Bisayan, Subanon. So, inspired of his other activities, he wrote a Tagalog grammar that made a comparative study of Bisayan and Malayan languages, and also si Rizal nagakonduct siya og research sa Bisayan og sa Cebuanon or the Cebuanon language, So that's it. Thank you.
As a writer, he wrote quite a number of short stories, novels, poems, essays, and play fables. He translated these works in different languages in Spanish, English, Italian, French, and German while in Dapitan. Rizal is a musician. Music has always been a part of every Filipino reunion and social functions in Barcelona, Madrid, and other cities of Europe. At times, when feeling nostalgic of their loved ones back home, it provided therapeutic effects to lessen their loneliness. In various occasions during social gathering, Filipinos in Barcelona and Madrid, Rizal as a flutist can produce melodies and expressive sounds to the delight of his friends and other guests. Rizal composed the song Leonor, El Canto del Prisoner, and Alin Manglahi, which were characterized by melodic rhythm and tone and expressive of sentiments and emotions.
I'm Justin D. Celestial, and I'm going to talk about Josephine Bracken in Dapitan. So it was being said that the coming of Miss Josephine Bracken was one of the most significant events that is worth remembering in connection with Rizal's life in Dapitan. So in this, maila-ila or mahibaw-an nato kung kinsa man jud ni si Miss Josephine Bracken, unsa may role niya sa life na Rizal. And let's find out. In the still of the night, after a very exhausting day for Rizal, he could not free himself from the pangs of extreme melancholy or extreme sadness, loneliness. And kung kita nata sa inana nga sitwasyon, di ba, di man nato malikayan, di nato mapugnan nga maghuna-hunag bisag unsa, di ba, magramanis, magmuni-muni. And just like us, Rizal keeps thinking about his family, relatives, friends, and his boyhood days in Calamba, the highlights of his life when he visited to the other places, especially to the beautiful cities of Europe, and katosang bitter memories nila ni Leonor Rivera. Yes, we know Leonor Rivera, right? She was the love of life ni Rizal, whom uncertainly married into an Englishman. So, daghan siya gihuna-huna, labi na katong mga disappointments and sad experiences which caused his heart to bleed. The misfortune and challenges which marred and befallen in his life could wreck a man of a weaker stuff. Ikaw ba naman ma-exile ka, malayo ka sa mong family, like aton mo magipang buhat sa una o magipang atuan, kutog na lang siya sa alaala, kay kabaw ka nga di naman ni mo maatuan ug mabuhat balik. Then, ang iyang gihigugma kay di lang jud ingon nga naibog sa lain, kundi gikasal pa jud sa laing lalaki. Mas worse pa, di ba? But God in His time and His mysterious way writes straight and crooked lines, the light of hope began lovingly in the distance upon the arrival of Miss Josephine Bracken. Kung ato siyang i-describe, she is a sweet lady, slender. She has almond blue eyes, also brown hair, and dressed with elegant simplicity. So, atong ilalan siya deeper. So, si Josephine Bracken is an 18-year-old lady. Yes, you heard it right. She is only 18 years old. She was born on October 3, 1876, in Hong Kong of Irish parents. So, her mother died on childbirth. So, ang iyang papa nag-decide nga ipaampon na lang siya. And mo nang she was adopted by engineer George Stauffer, an American engineer. Josephine, her adopting father, and Manuela Orlac, who is their Filipino companion, arrived in Dapitan on February 1895. So the main reason why they fly to Philippines, more specifically in Dapitan, was to consult Dr. Jose Rizal for surgical treatment of Engineer Taffer's blindness. Mr. Julio Lorente, a friend of Rizal, gave them a note of introduction. So si Mr. Julio, manay friend ni Rizal, nga naghatag nila og recommendation. Kay ang kamayuhan ni Rizal gani kay as a kanang ophthalmic surgeon, di lang kay sa atong country na recognized, but also in Hong Kong and to the other country. So, nakuan gani ito nga kanang ang pag-abot gani ni Joseph and Bracken kay murag na love at first sight si Rizal kay tungod lagi siyang gwapa, pagka-mysterious. Then, luckily, ang admiration ni Rizal kay wala gani na sayang, kundili nasuklian pa ni kay si Josephine Bracken sa daay kay naibog sa siya ni Rizal. Kinsa ba na may di maibog ni Rizal, di ba? Halos tanang nindot nga quality sa usa ka lalaki kay naa na niya. So, Josephine and Rizal fell in love, and each day that passed seemed to bring them closer together. So towards the end of February, Rizal decided to confess to George Toffer that he was in love with Josephine and he intended to marry her, but si Toffer, total siya sa relasyon ni Rizal o ni Josephine. Kaya alangan si Josephine, 18 years old lang niya, si Rizal kay 33 years old na atong time. So katunang time nga malabo na gani ang tsansa nga maayo si Toffer, they decided to flight back. And si Josephine, ni promise siya nga mo balik siya. And yes, she did came back into Rizal's arms on April. So they reunited. Josephine gave joy to Rizal. Rizal was fascinated by her lack of pretenses. Kung unsa siya katinuod sa iyang kaugalingon, mausad siya katinuod ni Rizal, and that is why nga ang ilang love ni blossom. So tungod sa ilang kanang intense mutual love for each other, they were destined to be husband and wife. So since wala may kanang legal na hadlang, they agreed to marry. Father Abak, the parish priest of Tapitan, refused to marry them in the absence of ecclesiastical permission from the Bishop of Cebu. So, katani nga tayo kay nang-apply na gani si Rizal para sa kasal nila ni Josephine, pero tungod sa iyang suliraning pampolitika, nahirapan siyang mag-apply. Nga ningon sa si Father Obak nga, sasang-ayon lamang siya kung si Rizal ay kukuha ng permiso mula sa obispo ng Cebu. Nya, mo sa iyang gibuhat. He asked permission to the Bishop of Cebu, but the bishop hindi sumagot sa kanyang sulat. So, that is why ang ilang gihimo, in one moonlight night, they went to the beach, hold each other's hand, and united themselves before heaven. Langit ang kanilang saksi sa kanilang pagmamahalan. Then, the couple decided to marry themselves since the parish priest cannot solemnize their marriage. So, ingon sa to nga, it's better a union by the grace of God than marriage darkened by sin. Rizal and Josephine pledged to love each other and lived as husband and wife, and thereafter lived happily.
So this is the continuation of our topic, Rizal deported in Dapitan. Josephine Bracken in Dapitan. In January of the following year, Rizal wrote a letter to his mother. He stated there, "The salted fish is prepared by someone who lives with him. According to Rizal, she is good, obedient, and meek. So meek means someone who is not violent. Rizal always believed that it is better to live in the grace of God than to be married in a mortal sin." Then he also wrote a letter to his sister Trinning. He wrote, "Josephine is better than her reputation. What they only need is to pay a curate. A curate is a member of the clergy in charge of a parish. According to him, they don't argue, they are always happy. The public can say that it is a scandal. He believed it is. It is very scandalous to live better than married people." Living with Rizal, Josephine learned how to sew, cook food, and do other tasks to help him in their household routines. And in time, she became pregnant. While he played, while Rizal played prank with her, she got startled and she fell to an iron stand. So the accident resulted to the premature birth of a son. So Rizal was deeply saddened with the incident, but he still named the unborn child Francisco in honor of his father and buried it. For the couple, the loss of the baby was indeed unbearable. So the letter to the bishop threw a light on their relationship. Obviously, Rizal would have married Josephine if circumstances had permitted. Some reactionary Filipinos believed that Rizal led an immortal life with Josephine in Dapitan. On March 14, 1895, the same month in which he wrote to the bishop, he sent a letter to his mother in Manila. Boom, according to the letter, he was on the point of marrying. Our relations were broken on her suggestion on account of the numerous difficulties in the way. Other interesting events and incidents in connection with Rizal's life in Dapitan included his long controversy on philosophy and religion with Reverend Pablo Pastos, superior of the Jesuit order in the Philippines, by correspondence and the visit of Dr. Pio Valenzuela, who was Andres Bonifacius' emissary, to sound Rizal's view on the proposed uprising against the Spanish government. Rizal to Cuba. Rizal's concern to mankind is universal. When Cuba was under revolution and raging yellow fever epidemic, Rizal wrote to Governor General Ramon Blanco offering his services as a military doctor. Governor Blanco later notified Rizal of the acceptance of the offer. The notification came along with an instruction of acquiring first a pass for Manila from the politico-military commander of the Pitan. Upon receiving the acceptance of his offer to go to Europe then to Cuba to help in the curing of patients suffering from yellow fever, he wrote a poem, El Canto del Viajero. El Canto del Viajero, or the Song of the Traveler, speaks of Rizal's homesickness despite his enjoyment of freedom in abroad. Rizal is talking about the life of the traveler, that being a traveler encounters a lot of obstacles. It is about how we manage the obstacles of life. After a little more than 6 months, his application was accepted, so he had to leave the Pitan for Manila, where he arrived on board the España on August 6, 1896. So España is a steamer which brought Rizal to Manila from the Pitan. Rizal was accompanied by Josephine, his wife, Narcisa, his sister, Angelica, Narcisa's daughter, and his 3 nephews and 6 pupils. Since the mailboat for Spain had already left the day before his arrival, Rizal had to wait for the next steamer. In the meantime, he requested the authorities not to allow anybody except his family to communicate with him. Accordingly, he was transferred to the Spanish cruiser Castilla, then anchored near Cavite to wait for the next steamer, which was scheduled to sail for Spain the following month. So as a farewell, the town brass of the Pitan played the dolorous funeral march of Chopin. Jose Rizal stayed for 4 years, 13 days, and few hours in the Pitan. So that ends our topic about the Jose Rizal in the Pitan. Thank you for listening.